Hey, everybody. Welcome to our first live feed of Beyond the Stack here at CTMS Studios. It's kind of fun. With me is Justin, and behind the scenes is Leah and Josh. So we're going to talk about some fun topics surrounding AI today with ethics and all kinds of detail to go along with that, to at least try to bring to light to everybody who's watching to some educational facts on AI. So what we got, Leah?
Yeah, so my first question for you today is, who owns a mistake made by AI? Do you think it should be the developer, the deployer, or the user?
Oh, great question.
Well, considering AI, large language models and automation are machines and programs, it'd be kind of hard to hold them accountable, seeing as we made them do that. So it's obviously always going to be on the user or the person who developed the certain piece of AI. It's going to be on them for accountability because they're the ones that put the rails on the system, so to speak. So without having those rails on there, the AI has no direction. So it could go whichever direction it wants to go. So if there is an issue, there's a mistake or a hallucination or something like that, it's 110% on the user. It's on them to vet the information that they received and validate it.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So my next question then would be with consent and data. So for example, did you agree to train a model when you posted a photo back in 2012?
Ooh, that's a great question.
You want to take that one?
That might be for Josh.
Yeah, I mean, all of these things from early on, before there were any kind of structure and rules to things, you may have consented for certain data usage, but I think a lot of things have kind of just, we've put our Facebook images out there and Instagram images out there, and we've done all the filters and turned our biometrics over to, all kinds of different groups and things like that. So, I don't know that people necessarily consented to use their images the way, the way we are using them now. Maybe at the time you may have consented to use them on a website or something like that, but not the way that they're being used now.
I would agree.
They're just, to your point about guardrails and stuff, they didn't exist back then.
No.
Yeah, the real weird thing about it is consent's kind of a loophole, because if you're using a public-facing application to present information, it's public by definition. So it's really hard to sue somebody regarding consent unless you have it blocked. You could verify that you had that information blocked and somebody maliciously went in and took that information from you and posted it. So to be brutally honest, everything that's out there on the internet, unless it's blocked specifically on purpose, it's free game.
Yeah.
In a court of law, as of right now.
Yeah, we all have a huge digital footprint out there nowadays, so nothing's safe.
I mean, think about it. Like, we're worried about people tracking us, right? We have these phones that track us every single day, and the more and more information we add into an LLM or to any kind of internet protocol that goes out there, that's just more data collection that's going to be able to pinpoint exactly who you are, what your what am I trying to say? Essentially, like what your prototypical buying habits would be, so that you're more directly marketed. Plus, on the flip side, forget about the buying habits. That's what most corporations want. Now it's about control, because they know everything about you. They know what you're going to do, and they're going to take apart every single text, every single email, which, by the way, on the Patriot Act got passed, and that's all free game. They look at every single text and email that anybody ever sends in the United States. So all that information's there, and when you have all these pieces that you're putting in there, and you're also going into LLM, asking it to deepen your knowledge and go further in there, you're giving them everything. You're giving them the keys to the kingdom. So asking them to not use that, then you won't get any information back. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword.
Yeah, like my phone, not too long ago, I was on a treadmill watching TV, and the phone picked up a commercial. It's frog tape. Little shout out to frog tape out there. But I never heard of it before. I didn't even know what it was. And a few minutes later, I had a marketing ad served up in my email with frog tape.
That's wild. Happens all the time.
That fast. So yeah, everybody's listening. So
Yeah, I mean that also kind of brings up the question, like, you know, like for legal and law firms, you know, or just when you're in your personal life, the things you're feeding into it, you know, with asking it questions about legal issues, and then, you know, there's no right to privacy with that. So,
Nope.
you know, if you ask, hey, you know, if I were to, you know, put a knife in my
Careful.
neighbor's tire, you know, what would be the best way to do it? And then all of a sudden, you know, they can subpoena those records, and, you know, you're going to have no leg to stand on if something were to happen.
that's
So
a great point.
You know, when I was growing up in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s, like we didn't have to worry about that kind of stuff because there was not much that was recorded or anything,
No.
right? No. Now everything we do is recorded, like whether it's intentional or not. Like there's cameras everywhere on the earth. You have to go out to the middle of the desert or something and not be on the
Yeah,
camera.
yeah, right. Everybody's listening. Everybody's watching.
It's always there, always watching. I guarantee in your house right now, you have at minimum 5 devices, but probably your house more like 20 or 30 devices listening.
I know.
to
I got devices all over the place.
right, and now
I can't hide anywhere.
and with them being tied into AI, you know, the one thing I've always thought about, like, you know, I have Arlo cameras at home, you know, and you get the AI detections of, you know, there's a dog running in front of your thing or package being dropped off. You know, what kind of AI detections are happening in the background of all those videos that we don't know or we don't see. So, you know, it's kind of interesting to think about that.
You know, one thing too, speaking of AI, just for everybody listening, be careful what you put in those chat feature, looking for information. Make sure you're not putting your private information. You know, you don't want to put your medical records in there and say, hey, give me a summary of all my medical tests or those things, because it's out there. So somebody has all that data that you just put in there. So chat is a very useful tool, but just be careful what you put in there for your personal records.
Absolutely, and try to silo it too. Like
Yeah.
I use 3 different LLMs, at least, actually probably more.
Yeah.
Just depending on the need, what I have to connect into. Obviously, I'm not going to connect in my personal LLMs to company stuff because it would just open up the
And I won't
floodgates.
let you.
Yeah, well, and I'm not allowed.
Yeah. Yeah. Josh is our CTO.
Not for lack
also
of trying.
our gatekeeper.
Yeah, definitely tries, but I shut that down each time.
Yeah, that's the importance of having somebody that has some oversight over it. Honestly,
Yeah. No, it's good.
Yeah, I think that's a common thing that people need to pay a little more attention to, is just you know, we kind of look at it at work. You know, we use Anthropic, we use OpenAI, and then obviously we use Microsoft Copilot. And you know, I kind of take a look at, when we're evaluating these things, you know, which companies having access to which data. You know, if Copilot and Microsoft already have access to my emails and my files, you know, then okay, fine, maybe it's all right to have, you know, Copilot have access to some of these emails and things like that, but there's no reason to have Anthropic or OpenAI or any of the other ones to have access to it. And just, you know, to your point about siloing the information, it's really good to kind of know which tools have access to what data, and,
Yeah.
and be very careful what you put where, and not give the farm away to all 3 companies or whatever other AI
Yeah.
models you use.
Good way of putting it.
The cool thing is too, like they all use different rails, right? Different guardrails in each application. So like that's why you get different answers. You could ask the same question,
Yeah.
and each LLM might give you a different answer. Could be opposite even.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a little experiment with that yesterday. So.
Yeah. Inside joke, everybody. What else you got, Leah?
Yeah, so going back to what we were saying about being careful what you put in there. I mean, we're on Facebook. The first thing I think of is I always see, you know, like Aunt Sally, whoever, saying, look what I generated on ChatGPT today. I asked it to make a sketchbook character of me, and then it pops out pictures of your Aunt Sally and her hobbies and her favorite things. And it's like, oh, how much are you talking to ChatGPT? So I guess my next question is outsourcing your thinking to an AI. Like how much you're telling it, are you using it just as like a Google search, you know? And when it comes to like really outsourcing your thinking, can it make informed decisions if it doesn't have any emotional connection to the outcome? And like, as far as like critical thinking goes.
Ooh.
Well, one, ever since social media, I think critical thinking has gone by the wayside quite a bit. It's starting to come back around now, which is nice. But with AI, how do you, an LLM agent is you.
Yeah.
When you talk to it, it's giving you feedback. It's like a mirror, right? So like whatever you train it, whatever you feed it, it's going to weight answers towards you. If that makes any sense. So like,
And a lot of people don't know that.
yeah, so you have to give it some information in order to make the information, if you're trying to get a picture or you're trying to get a story about yourself like out there, you're going to have to give it some information, but like you want to be selective. You know, I mean, like just think about you're talking to somebody on the street that you had never met before. Do you want to tell them your birthday? Do you want to tell them how many kids you have in their ages? Do you want to do all these things? So if you're not going to give it to somebody you don't know, why would you give it to a computer program which you know is tied into the internet?
Yeah.
And that has no responsibility whatsoever, even though they say they do, to keep your data safe. They're not going to do anything if somebody takes your data.
No. And to answer your question, you know, what we use it for, me personally, it's really work, you know, just to help me with work projects. AI is great for that. You know, it could whip up some marketing pieces that, you know, used to take a developer a week and cost thousands of dollars just to make a flyer. And now we could do it in literally minutes just by feeding it the information that we want to get across to our customers. So that part of it's awesome.
Yeah, I made the company picnic flyer for our zoo picnic coming up here soon in about 20 minutes. Fed it
There
in
you
the
go.
information and, you know, Claude Design, and there goes a nice PDF for us to pass out to the, you know, to the company, which might have taken somebody like Leah or, you know, 4 hours to design, and I was done within 20 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a great tool if you use it right, and just, you know, keep it on task, if you will. To Justin's point, you know, use it for really what it's built for, at least in my vision of AI.
Yeah, when I look at what I use it for, a lot of times is one, taking some knowns that might not make sense if I'm explaining it to somebody in a list format and being like, hey, curate this so that the conversation flows, you understand it. You're still giving it the knowledge and the facts, but you're letting it kind of dictate like a normal conversation because your brain has all of these things in your head.
Yeah.
So it's able to kind of like orchestrate it for you a little bit. And then it's also good at like expanding upon your idea. So like say you have an idea, I want to sell shoes, right? Well, how do I start selling shoes? You know,
Yeah.
so it's kind of like your Google search type
Write
thing.
me a business plan.
Yeah, exactly. So like, it's going to know that. And even if you ask it to write you a business plan, it's not going to give you a full business plan. It's going to give you the bare minimum. And then you're going to have to ask
Canned
it,
answer.
what else am I missing from a traditional business plan? And it's really about how you prompt it.
Yeah, you're talking about prompt engineering and you know some of the ways to. So that's one of the things I think, you know, being very careful with AI. But it's actually like, you know, kind of a tool also is just knowing the questions to ask, how to ask them, and to the point of having those guardrails and being very specific what the information is you want it to give you back, what information you want it to look at. You know, if you're doing a business plan, you know, it's a little different than Googling it. You know, you want to say, listen, this is the business that I'm in. This is the business, you know, I want a plan that's going to be a 5-year return investment for my partners. Like, you want to be very, very specific, and it kind of is counterintuitive towards, you know, how people used to Google things. You know, you were always thinking about like keywords and stuff like that, but
Right.
now we're talking to it more in a conversational way, and also just kind of, you know, you want to think a little bit for it and kind of give it the instructions on what to look for.
Yep. It's only as good as the information you feed it.
What else you got for us, Leah?
Yeah. So to pivot a little bit, we've spoken a little bit on this, but how do we feel about the impact AI has had on the world as a whole? So within society, on the environment, you know, just how we live our lives now. It's so different. Is it something that should be fixed, or are we just adopting these new changes in the world?
Well,
There's a few questions in
yeah,
there.
there's a lot. I think it's a complicated question to answer because just like with any technology that's developed, there's a good and evil side, right?
And a fallout.
Yeah, and where does that good and evil, like how do you determine that? It's always based on human. It's not like you could have a sword that's used for defending your family. You could have a sword that's used for killing people randomly and taking their stuff, right? You could have a gun for the same thing. You could use Google for searching people's history up, or you could use Google to look up a word that you don't know. So there's like, it's kind of hard to say like what's good and bad. I think the issue really is there's too much money involved in it. So nobody cares. When I say nobody, I mean the people that control these AI models. They don't care really as much about what it's going to hurt later because they're getting their pockets lined now. So I think honestly, it's probably a little bit good, but mostly bad because of how the people who are controlling the strings of it are going to interact with society.
Well, and I think an example of the good coming out of it could be really on the science side of it. There's a lot of investment going into these data centers, which we get to the environment part of your question on that in a second, or statement. But the good where AI is coming in is coming up with cures. The massive computing it takes to develop a cure for cancer or, heart disease. It takes too long, just with the human brain. But AI, I've heard projections that maybe by 2030, there's going to be, cures for cancers because of AI. That's huge. I mean, to me, that's a big positive of what AI can do. Now,
it's a huge win, but what if they don't let you get that answer because they're controlling the
well, that's where the evil comes in, right? They're like, how much money are you going to give me for it, right? So hopefully they keep it, open for humankind, to make sure it's done right. But as far as the environment goes, that's one of the evils of it. Water to cool these places. Man, it takes a lot. So, they got to find a way to do it more efficient. And that's probably where the nuclear energy will come in. Those smaller nuclear sites that they look like, big shipping containers. They could put up a nuclear site now anywhere. So those companies are popping up. I mean, they're here. I mean, they're public traded on stock market right now. So that'll help the environment. But we're getting there.
Do we answer your questions?
Yeah.
Did we miss one in there? I don't know.
Yeah,
I thought we missed one.
no, I think you covered it pretty well in there.
Perfect.
I mean, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
What else you got?
So this is my last
For
one.
our first live Facebook.
Yeah.
End it with a good one.
You kind of spoke on it with the open source vibe. Open source AI, is it democratizing or is it destabilizing? If you know what I mean.
Well,
I know your answer. That's spot on.
I think it's destabilizing because it's the same thing as social media. It has an inert bias built into it by being yours.
Yeah.
So just like if you ask it anything, it's framing it back how you think already. So you're not going to get like the second opinion unless you ask for that. And if you don't ask for that, because not everybody's trained on what an LM does and what it's expected to give back, it's hard to say it's good or bad. But I think honestly, touching grass in between prompting your LLM is probably a good idea.
Yeah, we just did a AI class recently, some of the people here at CTMS, and it was kind of funny the first couple times, but the very first thing they started off every class with was AI is not human. And everybody had to acknowledge that, right? Like, it's kind of like, like it's cool, use it as a tool, but
It's not your friend.
It's not your friend, it's not your boyfriend or girlfriend or anything like that. It's here to help you and maybe answer some questions. But to Justin's point, you kind of got to go out there and take a break from it once in a while and then come back and
human interaction is the most important thing to humans, to be honest. And the further away we get from that, it started with social media when everybody was like, oh, I could just keep in touch with my family and everything and my friends, and I don't have to ever see them or talk to them in person.
Well, look what happened during COVID.
Yeah.
Just for a few months of isolation, some of these, some people just really lost touch with the world. So you're exactly right. Got to have that human intelligence for sure.
Yeah, it's not good if you go into when I go in to talk to people about AI, my first question is, are you trying to reduce cost or are you trying to grow your company? Because that's two ways of how you're going to implement AI. The first one is I'm looking to replace anybody and everybody because I just want to cut costs because I can't survive or whatever, right? The other one is I want to grow, where you don't cut people then. What you do is you take the best of the breed and you move them into the automation pieces, and you take the minutia between their day on the repetitive tasks and make it more automated, still with a human checkpoint, right? But then you're able to get a lot more done. So it's that the next pillars, if you will, say you want to go to 10 to 20 million, that next pillar is going to be wrapped in how can I get there with less resources out. Now here's the flip side, and I don't know if anybody's read it or seen it. I think it was Microsoft that put it out, or one of the technology companies, that they're spending more money on AI development than they were spending with the actual developers that they had there.
Wow.
Because it's taking that much time to have the code correct itself, and tokens.
Yeah, well, it's the token and consumption rate, and then it's also the time for, your that's great that it corrects the code, but now you need to run it through a security tool. Now you need to have somebody look at it and actually evaluate it. And, what ends up happening is you start circling back to that point where it was just cheaper to originally have somebody develop software. So
there's probably a middle.
Right. There's a middle ground. And I think
Pendulum.
that's right. That's kind of what we're going to have to figure out is where, if you're coding or you're writing a software, obviously there's a use case for AI and doing some things, but it's going to be like with any way we've implemented AI, you're going to have to figure out where's its place, what place does it, what can it be most effective at, utilize it for that, and then have the human interaction to tie everything together.
Yeah, conceptualizing ideas is one strong thing that AI does. So like if you have an idea and you want to make it more understandable for who you're trying to present to, it's able to do that. You could mock up apps, you could do all these different things, you could throw PDFs together, PowerPoints, and as long as you have that data in your mind, you're able to present it in a way that's much more universally understood as opposed to just you understanding it. So it's a way to flesh out ideas.
Yep. True. What else we got? That's it?
That was all my questions. Yeah.
All right. Well,
Nice, guys.
yeah. Well, hey, we're going to wrap it up. Thanks for joining us on our first live Beyond a Stack podcast. We will do another one here probably in the next week or two. We're always going to have different topics. So we appreciate your support. We appreciate your business to all of our customers out there. And hey, if you need anything tech, give us a call. Thank you for watching us.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, guys.